What's going on, guys? Billy here, and today we're going to be tackling a video topic that's a little bit more difficult than some of the previous topics that I've covered because we've got three DJI drones that look very similar. It is DJI's entire mini lineup, so we've got the original Mavic Mini, the Mavic Mini 1, we've got the Mini SE, as well as the Mini 2. And I mean, look at these three drones sitting on the table in front of me. If you looked at them with a quick glance, you really wouldn't be able to tell which drone is which, but if you kind of picked one up, started handling it, you'd be able to tell the difference. So with that said, what I want to do is compare all three of these drones, go over what makes them different, what makes one better than the other, kind of explain where the Mini SE fits because it is kind of a strange release coming in the middle of the Mini 2 and the Mini 1 at a very good price point. But regardless, we'll cover all of this and more to help you figure out which Mini is right for you. So rewinding all the way back to 2019, DJI introduced this brand new mini class of drones with the Mavic Mini. It was affordable, it was uber portable, and best of all, it still packed a punch with great specs, great flight characteristics, and a respectable camera system. Even though this drone is considered to be discontinued by DJI, it's still abundantly available through third parties like Adorama. Now fast forward 1 year to 2020, and DJI upped the game with the Mini 2 that kept the same form factor, but introduced new motors and various improvements under the hood, making it even more powerful while maintaining its mini size and staying under 249 grams. Now fast forward again here to 2021 and we have a brand new mini drone. It's the Mini SE that kind of slots right in between the two previous mini drones, the Mini 1 and the Mini 2. It's better than the original Mavic Mini, but it isn't better than the Mini 2. Now I've mentioned this in some previous videos uploaded here to my channel, and I've actually talked about it extensively in some live streams on other people's channels. The release of the Mini SE as a whole was just very strange and unlike DJI. So first of all, there's no fly more combo available for the Mini SE. You can just buy the drone itself that comes with the bare minimum that you need to fly the drone. So like extra propellers, extra cords to connect the remote controller. Of course, you get a remote controller, a battery, but there's no case, no bag, no nothing, just the drone itself. And I guess that they could be doing that to keep the price of the drone down because the price on this drone is probably the best thing it has going for it. We'll get more into that here in a little bit, but just selling the drone itself keeps it at a relatively low price point and makes it very competitive. I guess that I can kind of understand that. But moving on, DJI also didn't do any marketing for the Mini SE. They just kind of released it. Like I feel like it was, you woke up one day, you checked DJI's site, and there it was. They didn't make an Instagram post, they didn't make a Twitter post. It came out overseas from where I live first, so I'm in the United States, and it came out in other countries before it came out here. So overall, just a very weirdly timed release, and probably the weirdest thing out of all of these things that I'm mentioning is that you can't buy it directly from DJI. So if you want to pick up the Mini SE for the very affordable price, you can't go to DJI to buy it. They don't sell their own drone. You've got to go to a third-party retailer. So luckily, Adorama hooked me up with this Mini SE. So if you're interested in picking up the Mini SE for yourself, feel free to check out the Adorama link down in the description. But yeah, overall, the release of this drone was very strange. Even look at the timing of it, right? Usually these mini drones come out during the holiday season. It's the perfect gift for like a son, a first-time drone flyer, a daughter, anybody that wants to get into drones. It's perfectly priced. It's small. You don't have to register because of the weight. It really is all around a good gift, but this came out like almost towards the tail end of the summer. So a very weird time for this to release. And for the people that like this mini drone and we're looking forward to a Mini 3, the Mini SE really isn't just what we wanted. Now, to give you a better understanding of how the Mini SE fits in here, it's basically a Frankenstein of the Mini 1 and the Mini 2. It takes the body of the newer Mini 2 and fills it with the internals of the Mini 1, but there are a few caveats to that. For example, the Mini 2 has this customizable LED on the front of the drone that was left out on the Mini SE, which I could deal with. It's just a cosmetic difference. But upon looking closer here, the Mini SE shares the same motors as the Mini 2, which are more powerful than the motors featured in the original Mavic Mini. This gives the Mini 2 the ability to withstand higher wind gusts and fly at a faster top speed. So with that said, you'd probably expect the Mini SE to fly just as fast as the Mini 2 with those upgraded motors, right? Well, you are wrong. It is still going to fly the same speed as the Mini 1. I'm going to put the specs up here on the screen so you guys can get an understanding of the power of these drones with the motors that they have. So again, even though the Mini SE has those upgraded motors and can handle the same gusts of wind as the Mini 2, it still has the same speed as the Mini 1. So that means that DJI is limiting it in software somehow. I'm guessing it probably doesn't have the same same maximum pitch angle, so it's not able to fly as fast as the Mini 2, which is kind of a shame. Now, getting away from the negatives and to go over some of the benefits that come as a result of the Mini SE using the Mini 2's body, we're using the same lightweight gray battery pack as opposed to the heavier black battery pack that came shipped with the Mini 1. The USB-C port on the back of the Mini SE also remains in place in favor of the older micro USB port found on the Mini 1, which is a big relief for charging on the go, as I've ditched most of my micro USB cables. The final big change that was made as a result of switching to this upgraded Mini 2 body is the more rigid arms, which are now fully enclosed in plastic. The Mini 1 had these flimsy arms that were filled with this squishy foam material, which I would assume was just to save weight. Now, I would say that the differences between these three airframes is probably one of the more difficult things for me to explain and for you as the viewer to understand, because even though we say that the Mini SE takes the specs of the Mini 1 and shoves them into the airframe of the Mini 2, it's not necessarily a one-to-one copy of what we get with the Mini 2. We've already mentioned that, and to kind of cover it really briefly here and do a recap of the differences between these two airframes, we don't get the customizable LED on the front, which I can live without, as I've mentioned, but one of the more things that probably upsets me the most is that it doesn't allow you to fly at the speed of the Mini 2, even though it has those upgraded motors and it's limited by software. Now, moving on here, the specs of the drones are a little bit easier to understand because we've already seen them before. The Mini SE specs are exactly what we saw in the Mini 1 with the enhanced Wi-Fi transmission system that really doesn't even come close to what the Mini 2 offers with OcuSync 2. Basically, in short, what I mean is that the Mini SE has the same range. It also has the same speed, as we just harped on, and the same flight time as the original Mini 1. This trend of having similar specs continues on as we move into the cameras. The Mini 1 and the Mini SE have the same camera system, the same specs, and I just want you to look at the upgrades offered here with the Mini 2. You'll see that yes, it can shoot raw photos and 4K video. It has more shooting modes, a higher bitrate, and even the ability to digitally zoom. The thing that is similar though about all of these drones is the camera hardware itself. It has not only the same sensor size, but the same camera entirely. It has the same gimbal. The only cosmetic difference is the 4K branding around the outside of the Mini 2's camera. This has already been established since the release of the Mini 2. It's no secret that all of these drones have the same exact camera, and even though the Mini 1 was limited to 2.7K video, didn't have many shooting modes, and couldn't shoot raw photographs, we all know that it actually could, but DJI just held it back through software so that they could introduce those features with the Mini 2 to make it seem like more of an upgrade. Now, I figured that I would get absolutely hosed down in the comment section if I didn't include some example images in this video, so I'm throwing this in at the very last second, but it's going to be fairly quick. If you want to take a look at these photos and videos more in depth, I'll leave a link down in the description like I always do to download them. Through this YouTube video right here, quite frankly, everything is going to look very similar. There's only maybe like a white balance shift in some of the images. Maybe there was an exposure shift because the clouds were different up in the sky, but regardless, the photos and videos from the Mini 2 are definitely a step above what comes from the original Mavic Mini and the Mini SE, and you have more flexibility in post to edit them with raw photo shooting as well as 4K video support. And so after all of that comparing and talking and explaining, that is where we are left. That is the differences between the Mini 1, the Mini SE, and the Mini 2. Now, I kind of want to summarize everything that I just spoke about into one long run-on sentence to kind of pull everything together. So the Mini SE fits in between the Mini 1 and the Mini 2 in DJI's Mini lineup. It is functionally a Mini 1 with the same specs, the same camera, the same flight characteristics, but it's fit into a dumbed down version of the Mini 2 body. I think that pretty much summarizes everything. And again, it acts as the two biggest upgrades introduced in the Mini 2 body. So that leads me to kind of bring this point up of like, why was this released? If they were to act the two biggest upgrades introduced in the Mini 2 body, is it actually an upgrade over the Mini 1 at all? Now, speaking of remote controllers, we weren't speaking of them, but just to kind of throw this in here, this is the Mini 1 and the Mini SE controller. This is the Mini 2 remote controller. In my opinion, the Mini 2 controller is a lot better. It's upgraded in a lot of different ways. It's bigger, easier to hold. It also puts the screen up above your stick so that it's easier to view. Now, I would understand why someone would like this little Mini 1 and Mini SE remote controller. It folds up, it's smaller, easy to travel with. But look, at the end of the day, the Mini SE is just a Mini 1 with newer motors that are dumbed down and in this new airframe that really doesn't introduce all that much. So why would DJI release the Mini SE? How does it make sense that he would come out with this drone? To me, I don't understand. I don't understand why DJI would come out with a Mini SE, but I do understand. I think that there's one reason, and this is the only logical explanation. The Mavic Mini is old. It came out in 2019. So they wanted to come out with a new drone that's refreshed, upgraded, and less money. That is the biggest thing about the Mini SE. It is cheap. It is, I don't want to say cheap because it's a good drone. It's well made. It flies great. It has good specs. It's not cheap, but it is definitely inexpensive. It is definitely priced competitively. For this drone, the Mini SE, it is only $300. That is DJI's cheapest drone that they sell if you kind of minus out the Tello, but that's the reason why they sell the Mini SE. It's an updated name, it drops the name Mavic, it comes in at a very competitive price, and you still can't buy it direct from DJI. I don't understand that, but again, Adorama's got you hooked up if you want to purchase this drone for $299. I'll leave the link down in the description. Hopefully this helped you understand the differences between these drones and helped you make a decision if you're wondering about which one that you should buy. My general consensus is you can just throw the Mini 1 over to the side. That's pretty much not a option anymore. And you've pretty much got to understand that the differences between the Mini SE and the Mini 2 are very much through the software. They're very similar, but you've got the ability to shoot raw photos. You've got the ability to fly faster, to shoot 4K video, more shooting modes. There still is no active track, but you've got a much more upgraded drone in the Mini 2. And not to mention, OcuSync 2 is just so much better than the enhanced Wi-Fi. When I was flying around getting those example images, trying to get the same shots between the Mini 1, the Mini SE, and the Mini 2, I mean, OcuSync 2 was just such a better experience flying the image transmission system on the Mini 2 than any of the other Mini drones. So with that said, if you can afford it, the Mini 2 is an upgrade in every single way, even though it's older. But if you're looking to just get your first drone, you're looking to get a gift, you cannot go wrong with the Mini SE. I feel like that just probably made it even more confusing for you guys, but hopefully you now understand the differences between all of these drones. I'm repeating myself now, so hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.